Only a 12th level intellect has the slightest hope of surviving what you are about to experience.
I had a thought. You know the game 6 Degrees of Separation from, like, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon? You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
it's
about?
like if you look at all your mutual friends, almost everyone is 6 friends away from someone else. Whether
Yeah,
that be
and the
Kevin
Kevin-
Bacon or anybody, but usually it's Kevin
right.
Bacon because he's in so many
Usually
movies.
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
So I thought you could probably do this same thing with Phil LaMarr, just because of how many cartoons and movies he's been in.
Uh-huh.
And I thought of one example at least. If you actually put me on the spot, I might not be able to do it, but I thought of a. So I can go, you can go from Hugh Jackman to Phil LaMarr pretty easily. Hugh Jackman is in X-Men 2 with whoever the guy is that plays Stryker in that movie. I don't know his name. You know who I'm talking about, the old guy.
Yeah.
And the old guy that plays Stryker is in Super Troopers 2, which just came out.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's right.
in Super Troopers 2, he's in Super Troopers 2 with Will Sasso, who was on Mad TV with Phil LaMarr. So I did in 5.
You did in 5, nice. I could do it in 2. So I do a podcast with this guy named James Strecker, who happened to meet Phil LaMarr at the Emerald City Comic Con, and Maddie Washburn, coincidentally.
That's
so
true.
I can make this route in 2 different directions here.
I don't care how far away you are from Phil LaMarr. No one cares.
Well, I
about
gudon't
you,
that
Ted.
means you have no degrees of separation from him.
I do. Yeah. I talk to him every day. He's my pen pal.
There's a I don't know if we can link to it on this podcast, but there's an interview on our channel with Phil LaMarr. You
It's
should listen
somewhere
to it now.
around these parts. Find it.
The search bar is your friend.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the 12th Level Intellects. This is a something podcast hosted by the Watchtower Database. We haven't quite figured out what the genre is.
It's like a geeky variety show about
pretty
mainly
much.
DC comics, but we dabble
It doesn't
in
have a
other
lot
stuff.
of me dropping my pants, but if you stick around, it might happen from time to time.
Well, good thing it's audio, so nobody has to see that.
Which
Because it's happening right now.
Yeah, Ted can see it, but no one else gets to get the pleasure of doing
Oh God,
so.
James, put that away. Put that away. Come on.
This is my phone. So we have our first images from Wonder Woman 2. I don't know if you saw those.
I did. Yeah. There are
there's a
2
Steve-
images.
Yeah, there's a Steve Trevor standing in some kind of like 80s jumpsuity looking leather jacket kind of spiel, which I guess means he found his way into some kind of time portal or something.
Yeah, or it's his son. Because they did
Yeah,
that.
but I hate that.
They did that in the 70s Wonder Woman show, though. Like the first
know,
season
yeah,
said
it's
World War
the
II, and then they
exact
jumped to
same-
the
yeah.
70s, and it's the same actor who
Same
plays the
actor,
son.
yeah. It would be a good callback to that, but I just don't like that.
Yeah. You don't have to like it. It seems like that's what they're doing.
I guess, yeah, maybe. And there's just another one of Wonder Woman standing in front of a bunch of very colorful TV screens. One of them, I think, has the girl from Vacation that's in the red car on it. There's just a bunch of 80s looking stuff. It's very psychedelic.
And
Do you
so
think that they're going off the like Thor Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy, like, oh, everyone likes 80s stuff. We should probably do that.
I mean, maybe only a little bit. I think they're going more for like they want to do commentary on the Cold War and stuff like that, and like kind of U.S. relations and just
Or
the,
that's
the
just
spy.
a perk of copying Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, but Thor Ragnarok didn't go into like the Cold War issues like that.
I don't know, but it's 80s.
I mean, it's 80s. Like, it's not even. It's not set in the 80s.
It's like a Flash
it just has
Gordon-y-
like.
I don't know.
Yeah, like the I guess the humor of Thor Ragnarok was kind of 80s inspired, and like obviously the music. It played Led Zeppelin's "Immigrant Song" all the time.
I guess neither of those movies are actually set in the 80s, so it's
Except Wonder Woman
different
is. They're calling
Yeah,
it Wonder Woman 1984.
yeah.
And it is co-written by Patty Jenkins, who directed and wrote I think she had a hand in writing the first movie.
Yeah, I think so.
And then Geoff Johns is also writing it with her.
And
that
Kristen
segues
Wiig
into
as
my
Cheetah,
news.
as we know.
Yes. And then I read something about another person who's cast. Makes me
Pedro
think
Pascal.
that's right. In an unknown role. Yeah. Do you know? I'm gonna look him up real quick.
Yeah, he's in Game of Thrones. He's the
Oberon,
you raped her,
right.
you killed her children. That guy.
Oberon, right? And he's also in Westworld. He could be Dr. Psycho. That could be good casting.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that's my theory.
I wonder if it'll be a what's his name? Scott. What the hell?
Scott Free,
his dad,
Mr. Miracle.
No. Yeah, I wonder if he'll be. Well,
because he has Oberon, the dwarf guy.
No, I'm thinking of.
That's no. We're kind of stretching it here.
What the hell is the guy?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you feel lucky, punk? I'm so mad that I can't think of his name.
Is this a Wonder Woman villain? Who are you thinking of?
No, the actor. Who's the actor in Dirty Harry? Oh my God! What is his name?
Not Clint. It's not Clint Eastwood.
Yes, Clint Eastwood.
Okay, his son is Scott Eastwood.
Son,
is he?
Yeah, so I wonder if it'll be a situation
Squad.
like that where we think he'll be in a really like cool role, but then he's just a random soldier that does nothing and dies.
Yeah.
Maybe he's Nightwing. Ugh.
No. Yeah, I think Pascal's gonna end up being Dr. Psycho, but they set in the 80s, Cold War stuff. I still think that maybe Steve Trevor could be revealed to be John Jones, and maybe like the Martian Manhunter is kind of involved in this. That'd be kind of cool.
So like he comes back with no explanation, and then
later he's
the whole movie like, yeah, I made it. I don't know.
I don't know why I didn't age, but here I am. Maybe found the Fountain of Youth or something after you survived World War One. Yeah, something, anything like that.
My plane crashed into a Lazarus pit that was right outside the airport.
It was a very soft landing.
Yeah. Sploosh.
Yeah, we'll see. But that looks like it's going to be a really good movie. I'm excited for that one. Comes out in November 2019.
I like how all the promotional things just say WW84. Like World War 84 is all I think every time I see that.
Yeah.
World War Z with Wonder Woman. She would have put a stop to those zombies a lot quicker, I think, probably.
She probably would have, yeah.
Unless she became a zombie. That's a pretty formidable zombie. All right, what's your thing?
So Geoff Johns, like I just said, he's writing Wonder Woman 2 with Patty Jenkins. But he just announced a few days ago, as of the recording of the podcast, it would have been probably a week ago when this airs, that he is leaving his position as the chief creative officer at DC. Jim Lee, who is one of the publishers at DC, and obviously he's known for his art on Batman Hush and books like that. Jim Lee is taking over Geoff Johns' CCO duties. And so that doesn't mean a whole lot in the reshuffling there. We have another piece of news in a second that might mean a little more. But Geoff Johns left his position, and now he's going to be more of a writer-producer, which is awesome because I've always loved his writing when he's actually there in the meat of things. Yeah. So it's announced that, yes, he's co-writing Wonder Woman 2. He's also going to be a writer-producer on the Green Lantern Corps movie, which will definitely be starring Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, the both of them in a buddy cop.
Okay, I didn't see that part. That's cool.
Yeah, it's totally confirmed. So
I just saw the thing about being based on Geoff Johns' work or whatever.
Which is awesome. So that means it'll probably introduce the entire emotional color spectrum, maybe even getting the Blackest Night and stuff like that.
Yeah, they might as well go super like freaky with it because the 2011, is that when it was made, the Ryan Reynolds one was very restrained and just like, no one wants a comic book movie that's weird yet. But now everyone just wants only that. So
well, and Geoff Johns was on that movie in a very it's more like executive producer sort of role. Like I think he had his hand in the script, but I don't think he ultimately got to really push.
Yeah, I mean, we had the more reserved, like X-Men and Spider-Man movies at the other places, and then we had like the Dark Knight, and we didn't have really anything else to like give you an understanding of where people were at with that.
The Marvel Studios stuff was still very new. Like even the first Avengers hadn't even. I mean, that's a year later.
First couple of solo movies. So yeah, there wasn't I'm sure that they, if they would have just been, I did the best parts of that movie, of the Green Lantern movie, are when they're on Oa and you see all the other Green Lanterns and all the buildings and weird mountains and
Mark
stuff
Strong
like that.
as Sinestro. That's awesome.
Yeah.
He was a great casting choice. But
yeah, they should just cast him again.
They should, but he's going to be in the DCEU as Dr. Savannah in the Shazam.
Oh, you're
movie.
right.
Yeah, so he's already
he
spoken
can be both.
for.
Everybody can be Jean Jones as each other.
There you go. He plays every character. That's why the DCEU is so weird. Anyway, so yeah, Geoff Johns, that's really exciting news. I bet he brings in Krona and like the beginning of the universe and stuff like that, and
yeah,
it should be really cool.
Even if it's just like name drops of like, oh, that we don't talk about that or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, the second half of that news is he's also going to be writing more comic books, which is awesome because right now he's just been on Doomsday Clock, which has been a really good read, but it's I've kind of missed him on other books, so
it's taking its time.
Yeah, even like right before Rebirth, like it was about 2 years ago. That's when Geoff Johns became the CCO at DC, and like Diane Nelson and some other people at DC kind of put pressure on him to be like, if you're going to be the CCO, you can't be writing all these comic books every month because he was doing Justice League
you can't do the thing that you're good at.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he was doing Justice League, the Superman. He had his run on Superman, and I feel like he had one more book. Maybe it was Batman Earth 1, or the Shazam backup. I don't know, but he was very busy right as he took that job, and then they made him like agree to do no more than 2 books at a time. So I'm glad he's doing he's bringing Shazam back. He's going to do a Shazam series, which he and Gary Frank, the team behind Doomsday Clock, did a Shazam backup book during the Justice League run of the New 52. So it was around the time Trinity War came out, but there was a little backup story in all the issues of like a new origin for Shazam. So it seems like it's going to be a continuation of that.
Now he's 12 children.
Maybe. Probably not. I think it's going to be the same kids he introduced then. But he's also doing a 3 Jokers book.
Right, okay.
With Jason Fabok, which is awesome. Jason Fabok is the artist who did the first issue of The Button with Batman and the Flash, the Watchmen crossover. He's done some really awesome stuff. I know he worked on the Justice League book for a minute too when Geoff Johns was writing it. I think it was the Mesovirus storyline. But Jason Fabok is one of DC's best artists right now, so that's awesome that he's going to be on the Joker
Did Jim
book.
Lee do one of those Button issues, like the second one or something? Maybe
you might be thinking of Jason Fabok.
I think he did that cover of the weird, like, hold the thing.
Yeah, that might have been, or that could have been Jason Fabok though. They actually kind of have a similar style. Reminds me a little bit of Tony Daniels' artwork too, and Tony has been doing the Batman book.
Tony Danza?
Not Tony Danza. All right. Anyway, so that's Geoff Johns. exciting stuff he's making.
Was that your combination of news's numbers 2 through 4? Like, did you just put all that into one chunk for me?
No, that was
still?
news piece 1. Yeah, I've got 2 more pieces of news.
Oh my god. Well, let me jump in.
Yeah, you do yours.
Were you going to talk about Ben Affleck again?
No.
Okay.
Never if I don't have to.
It goes back and forth so much of whether he's in or out of the thing, and I guess
he's out again, right?
Of the Batman movie.
Yeah.
I guess there was a Geoff Johns.
Matt Reeves is doing the Batman movie.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to figure out who said this because there's just a quote
about it being a younger version of Batman in the script. I read something.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. It just says, I just know that the rumor is that there's just going to be a new actor to play him and not Ben Affleck.
That's what it seems like again. Yeah, I've heard those rumors.
Yeah.
Again.
I mean, that's been going around for a little while, but I think it was I can't find the exact who said it, but there's some quote that's just likely with a new actor to play the Cape Crusader.
I actually just rewatched the Justice League movie yesterday. And I would not be upset if they recast Ben Affleck.
I liked him despite his murderousness in Batman v Superman, but
there's something about the Justice League movie. I was hoping I would like it better watching it a second time, and it just didn't happen. But anyway,
but no,
I gave it.
I have only watched it twice, and it was like back to back in a 2-day period when it came out. to hope that I liked it better the second time, but I didn't really.
No. Yeah, and months later now it doesn't hold up for me.
Yeah.
But
the original Beatles Come Together came on the radio the other day.
Nice.
And I was just like crying because
it's so much better.
It could have been so much better.
Well, another piece of news I had was about DC's streaming service called DC Universe. And we talked a little bit about that last episode, the kind of content that they're putting out. But it is officially going to be released in August of 2018. So 2 months from now. Yeah.
Did you say something that they also said for sure it was going to have all the backlog of cartoons and stuff?
Yeah. They're trying to get all the backlog of TV animation. So that means all the DCAU stuff is probably going to be there. The first few seasons of Young Justice, maybe even Super Friends. I don't know how far back it's going to go, but
if they don't put just literally everything, they're wrong.
I think they're trying to. I really think they're trying to. So that's so cool. They are also going to, it's kind of supposed to be like a one-stop place for all things DC. So they're also doing comics on there. And I don't know how like that's going to mesh together, but that's something we'll see in 2 months.
We're turning every comic into a motion comic. We're going to hire a bunch of really bad actors to do the voices.
I hope not. I hope it's something like Comixology with the guided view, but I don't know how that would work on like a TV thing, or if like you have an app that you put on the Roku or smart TV or whatever, and it's just the video stuff without the comics on that. I have no idea. That's just speculation, but we will see.
I mean, if it's like a Xbox app kind of deal or something, you can probably make your way through a comic pretty easily.
Yeah, just have to press a button every time you want to change panels or
That'd
pages.
be pretty cool. It'd be a lot bigger than you see it on your phone, for sure.
Yeah.
Except you can just hold your phone as close to your face as you want.
And you can read on your phone because you'll be able to get the app on your phone.
That's true. You can do whatever you want.
Could probably get the app anywhere.
Finally, a world where we can have all our pretty okay DC content whenever we want.
Yeah. Well, it'll have all the good stuff.
There's some great stuff in there. I'm just being pessimistic.
Well,
Classic James.
We'll see when it comes out. Last thing. Do you have another one? I got one more.
Here's
got
the deal.
too much.
You're gonna say what your next thing is while I let my cat out of this room, and then I'll come back and I'll pretend like I heard what you said.
Okay. And that's why Batman's actually not Bruce Wayne.
Said what you said there,
oh,
even though
what?
I know you just said it because I saw you.
Okay. So AT&T is they just bought out Warner Brothers, Time Warner. So AT&T is now the new owner of Batman and all things DC and all things.
That's been in the works for a while, hasn't it?
For a long time, yeah. And actually, the Trump administration, their Justice Department, has been investigating the merger to decide whether or not it's constitutional and legal.
We don't want Batman to go to a phone company. That would be wrong.
Batman should be on our administration. I wanted him for the cabinet.
Vote below for who has the worst Trump impression. The answer is both of us.
It's both of us. Yeah, so that happened, which is great for me because I bought one stock in Time Warner a few months ago when I heard the Justice Department was investigating them, and
now you're
it kind of went down. It went up by $8.
Oh
yeah, I'm $8 richer.
That's almost as much as I pay you for this YouTube channel.
But yeah, now we have that. Now we have a world where AT&T owns Batman, and I don't know if that's a good thing. Hopefully it won't really matter in the long run, but
if this happened in like the mid '90s, there would be a ton of just like Michael Keaton looking Batman like swinging through AT&T commercials and stuff. Like he would make his way. They would just, what's that? Danger? Oh, good thing I have AT&T. I can call Batman. And
then he picks up the big red phone that they have in the Adam West version, and it's just like like dial-up internet tones, and it just like takes
your
forever.
Call could not be completed as dialed.
Yes.
Yeah, they would mess it up because it'd be like a big red '60s Batman phone with an actor that sort of looks like Michael Keaton in a Michael Keaton costume, but then they'd get like Kevin Conroy to do the voice for it. Since they don't know what they're doing. Well, maybe that'll happen anyway. Maybe we just have to wait. It'll be Ben Affleck Batman, and he'll just I don't know, he'll throw the phone out the window because he's so angry. If there's even a 1% chance that this is a telemarketer, we have to take it as an absolute certainty.
Yep.
Well, I guess that's pretty much it, unless you had more to say about AT&T.
I guess we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Good for them, I guess. Yeah.
So I guess our main topic today it's a little bit vague, but we were talking about doing maybe DCAU like characters and stories and properties that could be adapted into movies, like whether they would succeed if they were adapted into movies, or what we'd like to see adapted into movies, but also into comics, I think you suggested.
Well, I was going to talk a little bit about how the DCAU has already influenced movies and
Right.
comics, because there's definitely stuff that started in these cartoons that carried on to the mainstream world.
Yeah, I'd say it for sure has like kind of set the tone or set the bar for like what the characters are supposed to be, I think. And I think like I feel that way about them just because like we grew up with those versions of the characters. But I think for a lot of modern writers, even if they're, you know, twice our age, they still kind of reference those 90s cartoon versions because they're like the most you've described it as like the most pure versions of the characters. Like they combine the best aspects of you know, Superman, of the Joker, of blah blah blah, and they're iconic nowadays. And
we kind of had the luxury of seeing this universe grow and evolve, you know. And as you've seen in the Watchtower Database, we're all about categorizing
just a little bit,
finding the timeline and everything. What would you say our timeline goes into? Like the main like crux of content from like Batman the Animated Series through Justice League Unlimited is probably 92 to 2007-ish.
If we go all the way to like the Return of the Joker flashback.
So that's like 15 years of superhero like of a universe right there of real time in that world. And then obviously it goes all the way to Batman Beyond in the early 2040s. So that's a big world. And so it makes sense that it would inspire the comic books and everything else.
Yeah. It is unique that the DCAU has like a beginning and end that you can date like to an extent, because it's a little ambiguous on either end, but it's like, you know, a good chunk of time that has a flow from start to finish in a sense, and versus like most comics. Well, they try to like keep the status quo forever, and then if something happens, they'll reboot the universe and just continues in this same like Superman's always like 30 something ish, you know.
Sometimes they'll reference events like, oh, that thing that happened a year ago, you know, or like stuff like that.
Like I'm reading the New 52 Justice League line right now, and they do a good job of continuously referencing like, oh, when the Justice League formed 5 years ago, 6 years ago, etc. But
the New 52 world's a lot smaller in terms of the link there, because like you said, like League formed 5 years ago from the present. Batman might have been around 10 years ago from the present, just because of the whole Robin stuff that happened there, like trying to explain why Damian Wayne could still be there despite the universe
because he starts out like the police are still like, oh, this weird Batman figure that we don't know if he exists, but then he's immediately in the Justice League.
Right. So, it was a little strange that way. And then they've even gone on to Rebirth by saying Dr. Manhattan stole 10 years of that. Yeah. So that's all a little complicated. But even in like pre-Flashpoint times, that was kind of like the status quo of like the modern day DCU around then. Was like they've been operating 15 to 18 years or something like that. Like Batman had been around that long, and like maybe the Justice League has only been around 10 years or something, but still they which is kind of similar to where we end in JLU. The same sort of like everyone's been experienced enough, and like the world, like we've kind of seen the world evolve where we have heroes all over the globe, and that's ultimately where the DCU gets to, which I think is really cool. It starts
a lot of people
Gotham.
have the viewpoint of like, oh, Batman the Animated Series is kind of its own separate thing from the rest of it, and I understand that. Like, I think literally it's not. Like it's all a continuation of each other and all this stuff. It is such a different like style of show and just the way technology advances, or the way that everything looks kind of 40s and gangsters and everybody's using Tommy guns and stuff. It is kind of its own little thing if you wanted it to be. And I think because of that, everything else feels maybe a little bit quick of how quickly it develops, I guess, because like New Batman Adventures is only like 2 years later, and he's already, there's magic, and then there's demons, and there's all this stuff going on, and then Superman, there's aliens, there's superpowers, there's all this stuff, and it like kind of just snowballs over those couple of years till the Justice League forms like really quickly from just like him punching gangsters and stuff.
That doesn't bother me too much because we see that happen all the time. Like even in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's like as soon as aliens are introduced, it snowballs, and like we've made it all the way here to Infinity War where we have magic, we have aliens, we have this whole world of stuff. And it's almost like it's kind of once the floodgates open, these universes, like there's nothing they can do.
And like Tony Stark will like point that out though, like, oh, what's happened? Like there's so much crap now. But
it's
like
opening
no one in the
Pandora's
DCAU
box
questions.
is really the metaphor. And you're reading the New 52 stuff, so you're all about Pandora's box right now. But that's really what it is. It's like you open that, it's like, well, now we have aliens, now we have magic. That's the world we live in. We didn't know that before, but now we do.
I'm trying to think if we ever have a line from Batman or Flash or somebody that says like, oh, I wasn't expecting all of this stuff to just happen. I can't think of anything. I guess maybe just when Superman appears, that's kind of like the oh, there's aliens, now we have to accept that.
That's what it takes.
And I do like that the DCAU, compared to the comics that existed before it, is like, when Batman was created, he was just his own thing. There's just Batman, and then Superman's his own thing. There's Superman. Everybody's their own thing, and then but once they start combining them, they start like the writers reveal to you that, oh, this was all taking place in the same universe. How interesting! Now they can be together and stuff. Versus the DCAU didn't intend to do that from the start, but as soon as they brought in Superman, it was just like established within the first episode. Yeah, Batman's in here because like Martha says like, oh, that nut in Gotham City or whatever. So like it's purposefully, that we're gonna bring them together at some point and bring in Aquaman and Flash and Green Lantern and all that stuff. So it's a different like approach, a different method to, instead of just it happening to all, everybody's here. What do you know? So I do like that.
I like that too. It's a slow reveal of the world. Yeah, and that's, I think, what made it so interesting is as it kept going on, we kept learning more about the universe. I guess I can talk a little bit about how it directly influenced the comic books around the time it was out. I wanna mention costumes first because there's
a few.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters who basically like their DCAU costumes got directly
just became their costumes in the comics.
In the comic books. So one of the first ones was probably Supergirl. They took her Superman the animated series look with the blue jean skirt and the bare midriff or whatever. Yeah, the boots. But the weird thing about it was that was like the Matrix Supergirl from the 90s. That was like the weird purple plasma alien thing. It's really complicated. Actually, that might have even been like the Fallen Angel version of Supergirl, which might have been the same as the Matrix Supergirl. If you know, this is like one of the few things at DC that like confuses the heck out of me. Supergirl and Hawkman. If you can explain to me 90s Supergirl and 90s Hawkman, I will give you I don't know what you'll get.
I'll give you my best Donald Trump impression.
So Supergirl got her costume when after Infinite Crisis, DC did a 1 year later jump, which is another cool instance of their timeline kind of, but that was a way to give all the creative teams kind of a fresh start to make their own status quo. And so Tim Drake got a new costume with the red leggings and everything. So it was the same color scheme as the new Batman Adventures, where it's just
How
red.
old is he? How old is he?
I think he's 19 actually. I think it's safe to say because he might be 18. It was 18 or 19. Because he's 19 in
He
the
doesn't
red,
have much more time.
right? Before he turns into the Joker Jr. But yeah, he became Red Robin when he's 19, and this costume was like right before he becomes Red Robin.
Okay.
It was a costume he wore right before Batman R.I.P. And so very reminiscent of the new Batman.
Is that where
Adventures.
Batman gets ripped?
Yeah, he gets ripped.
I'm sorry.
John Stewart, Green Lantern, he gets his animated uniform, which is actually like when we see the Green Lanterns in Superman, they all have that style.
All of it, yeah.
Yeah, and Kyle Rayner had that same uniform in the Superman animated series. But then even when we see the Green Lantern Corps return for in Blackest Night,
The Return.
or I mean, yeah, but the return is when they all have their own unique sort of Green Lantern uniform. But before that, they all basically had the same, which was a really cool design, actually. I thought with like how it's not the full green, it just kind of cuts off there at the chest. It's a cool look, and I think they replicate it for Hal Jordan a little bit in Justice League Action. He kind of has a similar looking uniform going on then. But yeah, so John Stewart gets this version of the costume.
So that wasn't an established Green Lantern look at all before.
No, that was all DCAU.
I wonder why they did that. I wonder why they didn't use. I don't know. I mean, I guess they're all so different that maybe they just we can't pick one. I'll just make one.
The Kyle Rayner one looks cool without the boots or anything. It's just like black feet. Like it's really stylized and really cool design. But yeah, Joe Kelly wrote the Justice League book, JLA, in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he brought John Stewart onto the team when the cartoon was kind of in sight. So it was mid-2000s. So, so John Stewart joins, and he's got this new costume. And this is still in the time where Kyle is the last Green Lantern. Jeff Johns hasn't revitalized the Green Lantern line of books. And so John Stewart had basically been given a ring that was created by Kyle. So it was kind of like a very special, unique just ring that he wanted to give to John to be in the league and protect Earth while Kyle went off into space. So it was a really, really interesting time for John Stewart. But anyway, he got the costume, and he's kept that costume ever since. That's his go-to. Like, John Stewart's the only one in the comics now who wears the animated style costume.
Is he wearing that in the new stuff?
Yeah, because he just joined the Justice League again in Scott Snyder's book, and he is wearing his animated version. What's cool about Scott Snyder's new book is Hawkgirl's also joined the team.
Right.
And she previously was in Dwayne McDuffie's version, as well as John Stewart. And so that was in the late, it was around 2008, 2009. When Dwayne McDuffie wrote that. And then he also kind of was able to bring in some of his milestone characters. But yeah, so Scott Snyder has recently rebooted the Justice League book for this rebirth era that we're in. And it still has Cyborg and Aquaman, who've been in the New 52 team. But John Stewart and Hawkgirl have joined. And John Stewart, it seems like he's replaced Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz as the Green Lantern on the book, but I think they're still around. It seems like the book's also doing sort of an unlimited approach to the roster where they can call on a bunch of B-list heroes if they need to. Because the first issue had a lot of cameos.
The Green Lantern thing, the costume, I like that they redesigned Kyle to... I mean... I was about to say that I wonder why they didn't use Kyle's 90s outfit, because that's also a very unique, cool looking.
Yeah, and they brought that back for Rebirth now. He's back in that one.
But they they kind of combine his and Hal's origin for that episode, so I guess it makes sense that they wouldn't just be like, this is literally Kyle Rayner.
Well, in the return, they kind of, his new logo, he's got a new Green Lantern emblem. That is kind of reminiscent of his costume that Kyle wore right before the original Green Lantern Rebirth in 2003. And so once Jeff Johns took over the book, Kyle remained in this uniform for a few issues, but then he became Ion shortly afterwards.
Right, okay.
Again. Yeah. He's been Ion once or twice in the books.
I also I dropped I suggested everybody go check out last episode Tommy Tejeda's Instagram, where he posts like model sheets and stuff from JLU and Superman, and the ones that we've like never seen before. And he just like yesterday or the day before posted the return Kyle Rayner outfit.
Oh, sweet.
It's hard to see on, but yeah, it's hard to see on audio. But you should go check that out. It's colored. It looks really cool.
Nice. I will.
And I mean, it's not like too far off from the one that we had like custom created for him anyway. But it's cool to see the actual like what it was based on. And that's kind of a combo of his Superman the Animated Series like original design with that 90s comic look, because they brought his like spiky-ish black hair into it, and he's got kind of the big white emblem and stuff. So
it's really similar to the very end of his run on Green Lantern.
Because we also had the Adventures in the DCU comic going on at the same time as Superman the Animated Series that was like more or less part of the DCAU until they kind of retconned it out with Justice League. And Kyle was definitely in a 90s Kyle outfit in that.
We've seen some random merch and stuff and like coloring books and stuff where they were drawn in that style
I have
too.
Coloring books with him in that.
Well, I don't have too much left on the costumes to say. I did want to say that Hawkgirl in the new Scott Snyder book is not Shira Hull. She's Kendra Saunders. So it is a different Hawkgirl, but it's still the fact that she's on the lineup.
I'm sure it's purposefully.
Oh, it's definitely, But she might even have Shira's soul inside her, like from what happened to Metal. Like it seemed, like it was a little
if you
convoluted.
Can explain to me 2010's Hawk Girl.
Just the Hawk people in general. Hawk, all right.
I was going to ask, it was Supergirl in the cartoon, she's Kara Inze. Is that ever a thing in the comics? Or is it always Zor-El and something else?
Yeah, well, she's usually Zor-El. And like I said, I mean, I can't even begin to explain the Purple Matrix version, but...
Kara Plasma Goo Monster Zor-El.
There's also Linda Danvers is her Earth name, but...
Yeah, they never did the Danvers thing
Kent
with Supergirl and DCAU. She's just what did she even? I guess she was just Kara Kent.
Yeah, I guess so. And then Nightwing in Rebirth has his animated logo with the little bird head that's there in the center. Because usually
is that not a usual thing?
No, not before Rebirth. Yeah, he never had that little bird head thing on his uniform until DC Rebirth in 2013. So that was something just from the cartoon. And in the comics, he kind of had that black and blue look. I think he had that before being in the new Batman adventures.
Does he have a mullet now?
Does he? Does he? I don't think he does. I don't know.
Hard to tell.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell in the Rebirth. Yeah, I don't think he does, but I haven't been reading the Nightwing book. But he does have his classic logo. I think that's something that like most people identify with him. And then the last thing, well, not necessarily last thing, but Static Shock has also been in the DCU a little bit, and that's something that he's been in the DCU. But what I mean is he's been in the comics. The DCU started, they introduced Static to the rest of, like, to Batman and Superman, the Justice League and everything. Static had not been in the DC universe at all until the animated series. Yeah. And when Dwayne McDuffie was writing JLA, that was about the time that he was bringing his Milestone characters over to DC. And so Static was eventually integrated with the Teen Titans in the era, like right before Flashpoint. So
he did meet him someday.
He did, yeah. That day was in 2010. Yeah, he did join the Titans.
Prophecy is fulfilled.
A little while. He premiered in a book called The Terror Titans, which was a mini series. It involved like Roulette and the Meta Brawl and the Dark
Not
Side
the Omega
Club.
Titans or the
No, the call back to
Young
last
Adult
episode
Titans.
puns. Yeah.
Red, Blue,
So
Green
Static got integrated, and it was his same costume from like season 3 of the show,
Yeah.
or was it season 2 when he gets the black
Yeah,
coat?
3. Yeah.
3. Yeah. And then Batman Beyond, of course, is now integrated in the main continuity of DC Comics. And how caught up are you on Justice League No Justice? You're still waiting on the last 2 issues?
No, yeah, I'm still waiting on number 3 to come in.
That's okay. I was just gonna say Waller. Well, you read the first 2. Amanda Waller's characterization in that series, like the fact that she's so important in No Justice, I think takes a lot of cues from from the Cadmus arc of JLEU. It seems like she's interacting with the League in a really similar way. I can hear CCH Pounder's voice in my head, when I read her dialogue.
I always do anyway.
I do too, yeah. But yeah, like a Waller is not always around in the JLA books, but she seemed really important in No Justice, and that might be something Snyder carries on.
Yeah. So there's occasionally DCAU versions of characters that will just appear like for a panel or two.
Oh yeah,
just
like
Brainiac.
Brainiac.
A little, yeah, Brainiac did that in No Justice, but we also did
and in
like
Convergence. He's actually like that version of Brainiac pops up every now and then.
Oh, okay.
Which
for
no
in
explanation.
Like the Superman Reborn story arc that happened a few months ago, Mr. Mxyzptlk is like explaining to him like, I'm the same Mr. Mxyzptlk in every universe. I've encountered you dozens of times, hundreds of times, and on so many different planes of existence, and it like shows him in Superman the animated series with that Superman and stuff.
Nice.
So that's kind of a cool little thing to just show like, yeah, that happened.
Action Comics 1000 had a page like that too, where you see Jaxer and Mala. Yeah, they're just there for a panel. I think that was more of like all the artists. It's because it was a big mashup story. I think they all did a pinup page, and then Scott
I was kind of
Snyder
surprised that was the only
it.
DCAU Superman thing that showed up in that issue, because I was thinking like, oh, it's this big like giant milestone of an event for Superman. You would think that they'd probably put something, but I guess there's so many animated Supermans now that they would be like, oh, which one do we do or something.
Well, that's a big one to reference.
Yeah. That's a big thing for me, is that the DCAU is so influential that, if it didn't exist, we wouldn't have any of this, Justice League Action, Teen Titans, whatever that came after it. And but we might have something similar to those, but they wouldn't be as good. We have no idea what to expect. And when we were talking about the AT&T Batman commercial, it made me think like, in a world without the DCAU, would the movies, because we should probably get into that, but would the movies have been as good also? Because like, would the Dark Knight have happened if the animated Batman wasn't as taken as seriously as he was and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Because the animated Batman spun out of the Tim Burton movies, but then became his own thing, and it was taken a lot more seriously than the Burton movies were, or at least became with the Schumacher continuations. But with Batman Forever and Batman and Robin,
we didn't even
we
mention.
have just continued to get more of those. Would they have bombed as much as they did if not for the animated series existing?
Well, like DC says, like they have 4 pillars of their character library. So it's Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Harley Quinn. Recently pillar number 4. So without the animated series, they never would have had Harley.
Well, that's the thing, is Harley Quinn was supposed to be the villain in the Batman and Robin sequel.
Yeah.
It was called like Batman Triumphant.
With the Scarecrow too, right?
Yeah. Because I remember being really excited for that when I was 8 or whatever. But of course that didn't happen. So
probably better for it.
Yeah.
And also Mr. Freeze's origin from the animated series. Like Mr. Freeze never would have been taken seriously as a major villain without Paul Dini's involvement there. He completely changed the character. I'd almost even suggest like their design for Clayface has been kind of quintessential, because Clayface has been very different over the years. And
see, was Clayface I know that there's been multiple Clay Faces, Clay Faci, and
Clay
there's,
feces.
Clay Feces. Yeah, there have been.
There has. I don't know. That's a
I
question.
don't think that really works, but was Matt Hagen the original Clayface in the comics, or was he's like the second or third one or something?
Yeah, the original one was named
Boris something.
not Boris Karloff. That's an actor, isn't it? It was something like that, wasn't it?
His name was Scott Peterson, writer for Batman Adventures.
Maybe it was like
Basil
Carlo. So it might have, maybe it was like a reference to Boris Karloff. Yeah, Basil Carlo though.
The cinnamon was actually
because he's an actor too. It's like, so this Basil Carlo version was the original one, but it's another case of the animated series taking the original character, using a later name, but using the same origin.
Right, and that's the thing is, like, growing up with the cartoon, I don't know that that's not what it's supposed to be. Like, that's just what it is to me.
They
so
probably were
find out.
I mean, Basil Carlo is a weird name. Like, they were probably just like, let's make this, like, who names their kid Basil unless they're a plant?
Well, at least his name, wasn't like, I don't know, Play-Doh or something, some like
Play-Doh,
like with a T.
Oh, Play-Doh.
So that they would eventually be like, oh, because he's gonna become clay. They do that with villains sometimes, like Edward Nygma, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
but that's, I don't know, you just expect that sometimes.
True.
But there are original characters that were created for the DCAU that either have never shown up in movies or comics or very rarely do. Like in White Knight, did you finish White Knight?
I did. I loved it. Yeah.
Baby Doll is in that, but
That's
is that Baby Doll's first comic appearance?
I don't know. I doubt it. Because I'm sure someone's brought her, like Paul Dini's probably brought her back in some comic that he wrote. Because he did a run on Detective Comics. I don't know if she actually was in that, but he yeah, I'm sure she's popped up. But I'm
finding out.
Yeah.
I
Roxy
remember
Rocket.
seeing her and thinking like, is that the first Baby Doll? Like, that would be a really big deal, but no one's talking about it. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know actually.
Appearance. Oh, this is the DCAU wiki. I don't care about this.
But she's a good example. Roxy Rocket is kind of up there too. Let's see.
Oh, for whatever reason, I can't go to her page on my phone. I don't care enough. Anyway, it might be, it might not be. Yeah, but there's stuff like Livewire has made her way into Supergirl, the TV show. I'm not in love with her version on that show, but it exists, so that's at least cool.
Yeah. Well, Renee Montoya is someone who started in the cartoons and carried over to the books too, and she eventually became the Question. So that's cool.
Has Volcana ever made it into anything? I don't think
Volcana has. Lockup did, though. Lockup is another original villain.
He's in No Man's Land or something, I think. Right?
Yeah, he's a big deal in that. Roxy Rocket has been in the comics a few times. She was in...
she was in White Knight also.
Yeah, she was in White Knight, but also in like Stephanie Brown's Batgirl
Well, I think those characters appear in White Knight because that White Knight is kind of BTAS-ish, like on purpose, I think.
Yeah, you can kind of tell. So apparently Volcana has appeared in the comics. She was in the 2010 Superman 80-page Giant, and that's her only thing. Yeah.
Maybe in a one-panel Jaxer and Mala kind of thing or something.
Yeah. Although Jaxer and Mala are not DCAU original creations either. No, they're from the Silver Age.
I think Mala might be.
Maybe.
I know Jaxer is. He's even in like Man of Steel. But
well, there's also Mercy Graves. You said Livewire. Livewire has been in the comics. She's actually one of the Superman villains who's probably been the most popular to adapt to the comics, and she's been in the Supergirl show, and Smallville. But yeah. So Mercy Graves, though, she was also part of No Man's Land that you mentioned earlier with Lockup. Okay. That was actually her first appearance.
She also became like a weird robot Amazon or something, right?
Yeah. She I think was revealed to be an Amazon. That might have been in the Trinity, like the original Trinity series, I want to say.
Didn't she have like a robot arm or something too, like a machine gun arm, or I don't know, maybe that's just one of the movies, one of the cartoon movies.
I'm not sure. It's possible.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely the most exciting part of the podcast right now. Is
looking up. I'm looking things up
and going, we don't know anything.
The Gray Ghost. The Gray Ghost has actually been in the comics a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of the original Academy. DCAU characters that I forget are original to the DCAU because I just know them as, like, I'm surprised that there's not, a fire bad guy for Superman or an electricity bad guy for Superman or whatever prior to.
Yeah,
those.
I mean there are, but they're like Superman fought the fire monsters or at least some dumb shit
yeah.
like that. Like Volcano
versus the flame man with a flamethrower.
Yeah, like they actually appeared in the JLReunion episode Ultimatum. They're the fire lava creatures that they fight at the beginning of that.
Fire trolls.
Yeah. So stuff like that, but
the fire trolls, they're just going around going, your videos aren't that funny.
I forgot to say the Parasite had a costume that was redesigned from the anime series. Like, the blue sort of, it's not a jumpsuit. It might even be part of his body, but how he's got like the lines on him. It looks like it's a uniform, but it might not be.
Yeah.
They gave that to Parasite in the comics.
For Metallo...
Yeah.
Has Metallo ever been in the comics just a normal-sized man like he is in the cartoon? Because I always see him as this giant monster of a Terminator robot, and it always I don't like that as much as just as a guy.
Usually he is. He's also appeared a few times as I don't want to say he looks like Iron Man, but he just kind of has like this green and orange sort of costume that he does, but. He did appear like his look in the anime series, like kind of like that half-face torn, like Terminator looking thing. And the Batman Superman Public Enemies book. He looks like that in that one.
I remember seeing they had the Batman-Superman.com website for a long time where you could just read about the main characters on the shows. I remember I hadn't seen any of the Superman cartoon except for the Batman Superman movie. And Metallo's page, I always just went like, you're just ripping off Two-Face. Why would you do that? He's just got two faces. That's stupid. And then, but he's a very different character than Two-Face. So.
That's true. Two-Face is actually like, in the anime series, he's got that like the blue half and he's got that really cool black and white looking coat. That, was original for the cartoon, and they've adapted that look into the comics every now and then, just because it's so striking. Like that's an amazing Two-Face design. Blue face.
What happened
to Two-Face? Now he's Blue-Face.
Kill-Face.
Yeah. Toyman. Toyman's another example of someone whose costume was adapted to the books.
Yeah, that's a new. He's not. Has he ever otherwise been just a small man in a weird clown mask? Like usually, Toyman is like just a small man.
Yeah. I mean, he's had a bunch of weird looks. Like he's kind of had like clown looking outfit, like back in the Silver Age, and then in like the 70s, 80s, he was a lot like the Super Friends look. That's kind of the wooden like marionette thing with the strings.
We should probably wrap this section up, but I would say that we should speculate which DCAU characters would you Ted Kendrick like to see in movies?
In a movie?
And do you think that they could be adapted in a way that wouldn't just be like, would they have to be adapted as exact copies of who they are in the DCAU to be successful, like in the case of Mr. Freeze or whatever? Or do you think they can just be like, oh, that's a character now, and you know who they're, like a Volcana or something?
Actually, I have a good answer for this. I'd say Zatanna. Zatanna is somebody who, when she first premiered, This is actually pretty cool. It was kind of like a intercompany crossover event that was spearheaded by oh man, I'm forgetting his name. It had a DC Comics in the 60s. People are like killing me right now.
No one else knows. It's okay.
I gotta
Walt
know.
Disney, I think.
Julie Swartz. So Julie Swartz was the editor in chief at DC. Yeah, so he introduced Zatanna by having her appear as sort of a witch. She was a witch in a Batman comic, but then like green skin, long nose, black hat, and everything. Like for some reason, I forget why. But then she appeared kind of in her normal like fishnet stockings, top hat sort of look in Hawkman, the Flash. And eventually, like all these little guest appearances, I think she was in a Green Lantern book. There was like 5 or so that culminated into the Justice League book, where Zatanna and the whole league go off to find her father, Zatara, who's been missing. And Zatara's from the Golden Age comics too. He was a member of the JSA. He was around. He was like a leading character in action comics during the 40s. So Zatara's got a lot of history in the DC world, and it would be really cool to see him as like an older magician who's, been in this world of magic.
Trained Batman and stuff.
Yeah, and that's something that the DCAU did uniquely. So, like I said, in the comics, Zatanna was someone who found all these heroes trying to get them to help her find her father. And then after they do and they rescue him, she joins the League, and she's a member of the Justice League from there on out. What the DCAU did uniquely was established history between Batman and Zatanna. Had Bruce go on this, when he's younger, he learned from Zatara about being an escape artist and a little bit about magic. And they also introduced this romance between Zatanna and Bruce that hadn't existed in the comics before. So that's something that I don't really see Zatanna working without that connection to Bruce. Like, she's great on her own, but it would be, when they introduce her to the movies, I would like to see that history remain between them, and give her
that's
a good
also
link.
unique because of the thing we were talking about before, where the DCU has an actual timeline where like even in like Young Justice, you see Zatara is like in the Justice League, like he's just ageless or whatever. Like everybody just gets to their 30s and then stops aging or whatever. I mean, except for like Dr. Fate and whatever. But
True.
Like he they show an actual. He trained Batman, and he met Zatanna when she was 20 something or a teenager or whatever. So you're saying you would like to see that same kind of interpretation of Zatanna where she's
rather than just being like, hey, I'm a witch, I'm looking for people to help me find my dad, like I'd like that history
where's
to
my
be there.
family?
I have no doubt she'll wind up in a Justice League Dark movie. Like, that seems pretty given. She's gonna headline that with probably Swamp Thing and John Constantine. But she and John Constantine also have this history that go back a while too. And so, I'd like to see her do that. Zatanna's also the type of character who could easily appear in Gotham City. There was talk about them doing a Gotham City Sirens movie, or the Batgirl movie. Those they might not happen anymore. There's rumors suggesting they might not. The Gotham City Sirens movie has been called Birds of Prey lately. So that might be what it's going to become. But that would be a good place to see Zatanna, possibly as a cameo. But that's probably going to involve characters like Batgirl. Might be the only hero in that. It's probably going to... Well, I don't know. I mean, Birds of Prey is Batgirl, Black Canary, Huntress, mainly. Or
sure.
Yeah, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't have a specific character answer, but I definitely think that they should just look to the DCAU for influence in general of how to approach characters, because I think, especially in the case of the villains, there are occasional villains in the DCAU that are still have a very goofy comic book origin, like, Mad Hatter kidnaps a girl so that they can be in an Alice in Wonderland world together because he's just mad that he got fired from his job or whatever. Like he's not really someone versus Mr. Freeze has an extremely emotional origin compared to just being a guy with an ice gun like he was Robin Banks and stuff in the 50s or whatever. But I think that for instance, when they did the Riddler in Batman Forever, he was a very like goofy, cackling Joker kind of Riddler. I mean, he was Jim Carrey. What else are you gonna do? But he creates a weird machine to suck people's brains out, and he's in a skin tight costume and all this stuff. Whereas the Riddler in the animated series is a lot more reserved and calculating and stuff like that. He was still kind of goofy, and he'd let it get to him. He'd let it, I mean, I hate using that term because I don't think you should go as far as they went with Batman vs Superman, that kind of stuff. I like the Dark Knight versions of characters because they're supposed to be set in a realistic world, but I think you need to find that happy medium between the, being exactly what if this was this world that we live in, and being the 60s Batman show or something. Somewhere in the middle is kind of where the DCAU lies.
Yeah,
I think that's a really good ground to base your characters off of.
These characters are all like kind of silly. The Justice League movie was a little bit too silly in some points, but like but
I mean, know it's a comic book world, so you might as well be comic booky with it. But I think if since it is a movie and you're adapting it into real people that you're looking at on screen, can't go quite far. I don't know.
A little campiness is healthy for this stuff. Like, it's just inherent with the genre.
I say that still wanting to see the New Gods movie and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. No, I do too. I can't wait. Condiment King. That's somebody who we didn't mention starting the DCAU.
That one is a goofy one on purpose. So.
Yeah. But he's a DCAU original. So
yeah. All right. Well, that's cool. That probably.
Hopefully that. Let us know if we missed anything. We probably did. The DCAU is a big place, and it's
We need a comic relief little theme song or something. Sing us a song for comic relief, Ted.
I got my comics and I'm relieved.
All right, I'll get Adam to write a back up for that, and
it's gonna be great.
Did you say I'm relieved?
Yes.
At the end?
Yes.
That's what this section is about.
It is. It's such a relief.
Oh God, I made it.
Yeah, to finally talk about this. Well, I wanted to talk about Justice League #1, but I don't want to spoil anything for you.
I know, I'm sorry.
I want to talk about Doomsday Clock #5, but I don't want to spoil that for you either.
I know, I'm sorry. I like how we have to, we do such a no, I haven't read it, so we can't possibly talk about it. But then we just as soon as both of us have read it, we
assume the rest of you have.
I don't care about the audience, so just talk about it anyway.
Right. Well, I can give a quick spoiler-free review of those two. I would also like to talk about, have you been reading the Batman series leading up to the wedding?
No, but you can talk about that.
Okay.
That doesn't bother me.
I just read, I'm one issue behind. I read number 45, 6, and 7 just the other day. So I'll talk about that a little more spoilery.
Is it leading up to number 50 or something?
It is. 50 is the wedding. And 48 just came out, but I haven't read that yet. It's called The Best Man, and it has a Joker on the cover. But so I'll get back to Batman in a second, but Justice League #1 and Doomsday Clock #5. So Justice League spins out of No Justice, the ramifications of that. That sets up this new version of the League we have, and it's new in all senses of the word. There's a new headquarters. They even function differently because... This isn't a big spoiler, but Martian Manhunter is back on the team, and he hasn't been around since before the New 52. So
yeah, you said he's doing the
they all communicate with telepathy, and that's actually done really well, and kind of humorous. There's actually some really funny lines of dialogue in that. I think Scott Snyder's got a really good grasp of the family sort of relationship with the League, and the League's never really been branded as a family. As much as they are sort of a big work, just a force, Yeah.
But I get that because New 52 Justice League never really felt like they liked each other.
Yeah.
They're all just kind of there.
Exactly. But we get that here. They actually seem like friends in this. There's even Wonder Woman has one of the funniest lines, during their telepathy thing. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but everyone starts doing a Batman voice impression over the telepathy line, and Batman the whole time just like, come on, guys, like, everyone's got their own Batman voice that they do. It's pretty funny. Yeah. So it's a really cool book. I can't wait to read more. They've set up the Legion of Doom is going to be a big element of this because at the end of No Justice, Lex Luthor and Martian Manhunter are very aware of the new sorts of threats that are going to come with after Dark Knight's Metal. The Source Wall there was a huge hole in the Source Wall. They are still figuring out how to deal with those ramifications. And Lex and Martian Manhunter both know that they have to prepare. So Lex is preparing with the new Legion of Doom. Jean is now in charge of the Justice League. That's about all I want to say about that without like giving too much else away. There's some really cool cameos in this book. And like I said, it's leading to some really amazing stuff. It made me feel like I was reading Grant Morrison's like 90s JLA run again. And that's my favorite stuff. So it's a very, just the scope is epic, larger than life sort of storytelling. And it does not, it just slams you into it. Like it does not take its time leading there. We're already in the middle of this new status quo, and it's great. So I really recommend the new Justice League book for sure.
Okay.
And then Doomsday Clock number 5 is leading to some really interesting places. We finally see the Joker. We also catch back up with Saturn Girl and Rorschach, and it picks up on plot threads.
Good old pals.
Yeah, good old pals with and
Milo and Otis.
A lot of the DC Rebirth, the mysteries established in that one-shot book are finally starting to come to fruition here. Like seeing the Joker here, I would think because it sets him up in this issue for a really big. Something's going to happen in issue 6 involving the Joker and Batman and Mime and Marionette. And I don't want to say exactly what, but issue 5 leaves us in a very interesting place. So, so we'll see some very heavy Joker stuff, I think, in issue 6.
It's also in the mail for me.
Sweet. It might
the mail has not been reliable.
We could even learn a little bit of clues about the 3 Jokers. I doubt it'll go that heavily into it because we have that series coming later in the year. But I do
like with the 3 Jokers thing, how they established there's 3 Jokers, then we've gone like 2 years not knowing anything about it.
And whenever Joker appears,
we'll talk about it at some point, and now there's just going to be a whole series about it.
Whenever we see the Joker, like for me, it's like, what? Like, we just saw the Joker here, but like now he's here. Like, which Joker's which? And it's very strange. Like Scott Snyder is not shy about using the Joker at all. Like he's part of the Legion of Doom in the Justice League book. I don't know if that's the same Joker that we see in Doomsday Clock because that's supposed to be months later.
That explains why the Joker looks 3 different ways in the DCAU too.
Yeah, there you go.
There's 3 different guys. So you only killed one of them. The other 2 are still out there.
Exactly. Other Rebirth mysteries was like Johnny Thunder and the JSA. We get a little bit more hints about his role in things in Doomsday Clock number 5. So that's really exciting. What else happened? We don't see Dr. Manhattan yet. Yeah, I'll stop this in a second.
No, it's fine. It's just hard to have a discussion.
I know you haven't read it.
I haven't read.
Well, all I'll say is Comedian's doing some interesting stuff. He seems to be tracking Mime and Marionette, and Ozymandias has a big showdown with Batman. That's really fun to watch.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, he basically like Batman's sitting in Night Owl's ship, the Owl, and he's just like got Rorschach's journal in his lap, and he closes the final page. And he's like, Ozymandias, I've read all about you, sort of thing. And it's like, oh man. So
I like how that stuff never gets old. Like, if Batman disappears on a rooftop, I never roll my eyes. I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, he's just sitting here in the shadows. He's like, I've been waiting for you, and I've read all about you. So that's all.
You don't need to know how he knows he's there. He's just knows.
Really interesting stuff. Even Ozymandias, like the way that Gary Frank draws him in Doomsday Clock number 5 makes me think that he looks a lot like Trump. Like the way his hair looks a lot like it's almost too neat, and it's
They're
just
fighting
drawn
and
the
his
same
toupee
way.
falls off. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, no, but I mean, it kind of looks like that. So I think that I haven't quite analyzed it all the way, but I think there's something to be said about reading that into Ozymandias' character. So,
okay.
Anyway, that's all I'll say about that. Good stuff. Can't wait to keep reading Doomsday Clock.
It sounds like we're paid by DC because you're just like describing the book.
We should be.
Oh wow, that's
we
cool.
should be.
Yeah, sure.
Batman. We talked about 45, 6, and 7. I really liked that. It was called The Gift. It was a 3-part story arc, and it's all about Booster Gold, who wanted to give back.
Seems weird. But
I know that he'd be in a Batman book. I love Booster Gold. I read Geoff John's run on Booster and like reading about him
He's
in the
that guy
52.
with the power ring and the green costume, right?
That's right. Yeah, Green Booster Gold.
Yeah,
Green.
All right.
Yeah. Green Lantern. So Booster decides to give Batman a gift, and what's really cool is he cites for the man who has everything. He's like, I heard about this time that Superman got this gift of like this orchid thing, and it showed him this world that could have been, and like, yeah, it was really depressing because he saw this family and he was on Krypton and stuff, and like, yeah, that sucked for him, but he realized that he was better for being in the world like as Superman, and so he was like, Batman, I gave you this gift because like I changed your world, I saved your parents, but I want you to realize that being Batman is better. So he was basically like trying to pull a black orchid on Batman, like, and he even says
Black
it.
Mercy.
Yeah. Black Mercy. That's it. Which isn't an alien
Black orchid of the Justice League Dark.
Yeah. No, it's totally different. But Black Mercy is an orchid, and he calls it an orchid.
Sure,
anyway,
sure.
A little weird.
So that just means that for the man who has everything, or a version of it, also happened in the New 52.
It must have
at some point.
Yeah, I mean, Alan Moore wrote the original comic in the 80s that was in continuity. So yeah, there's had to be some sort of version that happened. So yeah, Booster saves Batman's parents from ever dying. So that means Bruce Wayne's grown up rich. All the Robins are leaving. They're leading different lives. You see Tim Drake, Jason Todd, and Dick Grayson. Actually, Dick Grayson is Batman. For some reason, Dick Grayson has become Batman, but he goes around the city with guns and stuff and shoots people. And very different Batman. And so Booster tries...
Someone tore my mullet off. Now
yeah. So first Booster goes to Batman because he wants to tell Batman, like, I changed your world, but I want to make it back. And it's a horrible world because the Joker's taken over Gotham to the point where like everyone's becoming Jokerized. The issue starts with Green Lantern laughing about something, about how the ring has all these protections in place where it won't allow you to kill yourself or hurt yourself at all. But Hal Jordan's like, I'm so powerful though. I bet I can. I bet if anyone can overcome this, I can. So he holds the ring up to his head and kills himself with the power ring. Jesus. And that's just like page 1. And so it starts off very dark. Well, obviously the world's fucked up. And so Booster,
pretty good.
yeah, it was a really cool story arc. I enjoyed it. He finds Batman, realizes that it's not Bruce, eventually finds Bruce and tells him that like, hey, I'm a time traveler. Skeets is my time traveling robot. We're going to fix this. I just wanted you to know that like this is my gift to you. I'm showing you this thing. And so Bruce,
you're welcome.
Yeah, they're at like Wayne Manor. He takes a fire poker thing and then he just like kills Skeets. So it destroys the time machine. Booster's like, oh man, okay, well now, what am I gonna do? So the next issue takes place 1 year later. So basically like Booster's trapped in this world and he has to keep finding a way to try to like take them back in time. The second issue, he tries to find Selena Kyle to bring Selena to Bruce because it's like, you're about to get married. If I just like introduce the two of you together, you'll fall in love and you'll remember your past lives and everything will be back to normal, how it should be, And that doesn't happen because Bruce's parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne, they were like kind of evil rich people in a way. Like they're not evil, but they have ulterior motives and like their money is kind of gone.
How far back does it go that changes the timeline?
I mean, to when Bruce is 8 years old. Like Booster literally hops in to save the parents before their death. Yeah. And so Selena, when she's introduced to the Waynes, she's wearing her like leather stitched costume for Batman Returns, and just like goes like feral on the Wayne parents, just like tears into like rips Thomas Wayne's throat,
Now
like
marry me.
Right. Yeah. So Bruce just like, oh man, this isn't how I thought it would go. Like years later, Kyle just killed Bruce's parents. So really crazy second issue. Third issue takes place a year after that. So like Booster's been stuck in this like crazy present for like years now. He's like he's an old man, like shriveled, like skin and bones, like kept as a prisoner. And it's just a really fascinating but strange situation.
So there hasn't been a conclusion to this yet.
No, there has. He does go back in time, and I'm trying to remember how. I got the issue right over there.
Shooting star.
I got it all. How do you do it?
Oh, you're gonna just look.
Yeah, because I forgot how he saves the day here.
It was so amazing. It blew your mind.
Oh yeah. Well, he fixes Skeets. Oh yeah, because I remember now. So Bruce Wayne, after this like second year, after Catwoman kills his parents, he's convinced that Booster is right and actually was telling the truth, and he's really mad at him. So Bruce actually takes the time to fix Skeets, and so the time machine works again. They go back. Bruce Wayne actually goes back with Booster to the moment of his parents' death, and they like have this big battle on a rooftop. Bruce watches his parents die in the alleyway from the rooftop, and then that other version of himself disappears. So Booster's kind of like left there realizing that like he really messed things up, and it traumatized him more than anything. And so the issue ends with him on a rooftop with Batman and Catwoman back in the modern day. Everything's normal again, and he's just like telling them about the gift he tried to give them. But if anything, it sounds like he just, traumatized himself through the experience. So it's actually kind of depressing, but a really interesting story. I really liked it.
Okay, that's just part of the build up to the wedding. Is that
yeah. I mean,
just
ultimately,
in the normal Batman title.
Yeah, it was issues 45, 6, and 7. And it was really cool. Ultimately, I don't think it'll like matter that much in the long run, but it was still a really fun sort of.
I mean, the last issue that I read of Batman was when he proposed to Catwoman, and I know that was a while ago, but since then I stopped reading Batman just because it wasn't as interesting as some of the other ones.
Yeah, there's been some good issues here and there.
Yeah.
That actually made me start reading it again. Yeah. But I love the Booster Gold arc. That was really cool.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I'm sad that I missed out on that so far, but I'll just grab the paperback at some point or something.
Yeah. Well, that's all I got for that.
I'll be really fast with mine because we should probably not take too much longer here.
I know I kind of went on that thing, but
we talked about last time I read Trinity War. I'm making my way through the Justice League New 52 stories. This time, like now, I'm on Forever Evil, Forever Heroes stuff. I'm trying to read it in the exact order you're supposed to read it, like chronologically. So I read the first 2 issues of Forever Evil, then the first issue of Forever Heroes, and then now I have to read the entirety of Forever Evil Blight, which is like the thickest book ever.
Well, that's also not crucial.
I don't have to. I know you told me I don't have to, but I want to. And it's pretty entertaining so far.
It's not bad, right? That's what I said. It's like an interesting story, but...
Yeah, it's Justice League Dark stuff, so it's Constantine and Dead Man and Zatanna and stuff
Swamp
like that.
Thing, yeah.
But so far, I'm only like a fourth of the way through it. It's just Constantine, Swamp Thing, the Nightmare Nurse, which is a character I'm not familiar with.
She
also looks a lot like Marionette in Doomsday Clock to me.
She was a new character that was introduced in the Phantom Stranger book. In the New 52.
And then Phantom Stranger is a big part in Pandora, and the Question was in it for like an issue, but then he immediately says like, "No, I'm not doing this," and leaves. But so they're so far it's just been that like because of the Crime Syndicate coming through into the Justice League's dimension, they brought with them all of the like evil intentions of their universe. So all of the like sinful evil, like it's hard to explain. I guess it's like, just like
good versus evil. Good always wins in our world, but evil always wins in theirs.
Right. It's everything's backwards or whatever. So it's like all of like Constantine looks and sees like a plane of existence where he can see like everyone's ill intentions, and that's personified in the form of like a smoky dragon, and the dragon then inhabits the soul of this kid that I guess has been in the Phantom Stranger comics or something.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
saved.
he has. Yeah.
And then so now he has come to like the physical plane as Blight, not Batman Beyond's Blight,
No.
but
Yeah.
he's like a spiky skull dragon thing.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's kind of cool. I don't know if you've read all of that.
I
All
did.
Of the Blight
I mean, I
okay.
kept up with it when it came out at
Yeah.
the time. Yeah.
It does. I can tell that they're not very confident that people will keep up with it because every single issue, the first page is like
A recap.
Constantine going like, "Where am I? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm dead. Oh, that's right. We had to do these 50 things to get to this point. I forgot." I'm like, I didn't forget. I just read that.
Right.
But-
It's also
but-
like, I mean, it's what, like 4 or 5 different books like tying into each other. Like it
Yeah,
was
I think
the
so.
Just Like Dark book, Phantom Stranger, Constantine,
yeah.
maybe Swamp Thing book too. I don't know.
Yeah. But it's cool seeing these characters that I don't know as well. I think I'm
Yeah.
enjoying. That's why I enjoy the Pandora stuff. I think as much as I did was because I'm not just like, oh yeah, Batman's being Batman again or whatever, which can get old sometimes, I guess. I like reading fresh things, but I still like knowing it exists in that same universe. And
What do you think of the Outsider reveal? Like the guy who's in the Justice League book, the purple suit, white skin, albino.
Oh, how he's like Alfred.
Yeah, from
yeah.
the Crime Syndicate world.
See, I didn't even notice that he had white skin in that until this book that I'm reading now, because he makes a couple appearances, and they also added a thing where all of his dialogue has a little like "huh" in it, like, little laughs.
Yeah,
And I wonder if that's supposed to mean, and maybe they'll reveal this. I wonder if that's supposed to mean that he's like the Joker of that
I think
universe.
so, because he's got a purple suit and white skin.
Like Alfred became the Joker at some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they managed to like sedate him enough to not be a bad. But I mean, they're all bad guys. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But long story short, I'm liking it a lot. I will continue to update on it as I get through it.
Have you seen the part in Justice or the Forever Heroes where it's all about Ultraman and he has to like
No.
So there's a really cool scene where he gets his powers from snorting kryptonite like it's crack cocaine.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
You have seen that part? Yeah, he has to like
Yeah.
cut it up, and I was just like, that's
Yeah, and I
that's
like how
evil
he
Superman.
does that, and he's like hurt by the sun. He's just the opposite of Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah. He put so like, I think it's gonna be interesting once I finish Blight and catch back up in the other books, because I read 3 issues of this not Blight stuff, and then I have to read all of Blight before I can come back to that stuff. And what happened last in Forever Heroes was Ultraman pushed the moon in front of the sun, and there's like a eclipse so that he has his powers or whatever. He's not hurt. But then so far the entirety of Blight, the moon is in front of the sun. But I'm betting that that's going to be rectified pretty quickly in the main book. So if I wasn't reading Blight, all this stuff wouldn't, it's happening that I don't know about.
Sure. Yeah.
But there's stuff like Phantom Stranger and Pandora are like saved from dying. So I think that's pretty important that I read this instead of just jumping and them suddenly being alive and the other thing.
Sure. Is Phantom Stranger also hanging out with God in that? Is God like the little terrier dog? Have you seen him yet?
Maybe.
Yeah, in the Phantom Stranger book, like God is like literally like a little fluffy white terrier. So if you run across him in that book, that's God. That is God.
No, yeah, the issue I just ended on is Phantom Stranger is like he just leaves without telling them, and then he shows up next to Blight, and Blight's like, "Oh, I knew you would betray everybody," and he's like, "Yep, I had to." And I wonder if it's kind of like a Doctor Strange thing of like, this was the only way that we can defeat you is if I do this.
Yeah.
So.
It's likely. Also, like in the New 52, it's hinted very heavily that Phantom Stranger is Judas from
right. Yeah,
of the apostle Jesus and everything. Yeah, so he's the guy who betrayed Jesus to the Romans. Yeah,
and then, they show that in this, and they show like him walking away sadly from like a shadow of the crucifixion and stuff like that. So
it's pretty heavy stuff.
I like that though. I don't know enough about Phantom Stranger to be like, that's not who he's supposed to be or whatever. So.
I mean, that's always been like kind of one of his hinted origins, because it's never been like straight up said like that's who it is, except for maybe that book where they do say like, it's Judas. But I like keeping it a little more ambiguous, keeping it like an option for his backstory.
All right, let's get real quick, unless you have something else.
No, I was just going to say that book in particular was written by Dan DiDio, who's one of DC's publishers. It's Dan DiDio and Jim Lee are the publishers. So he can do whatever he wants. If he wants to bring in Judas, the Apostles, and go into like that territory, which seems a little risque to me. But, that's up to him because he doesn't have anyone to answer to, really.
So. No one's gonna fire him.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a couple of Untitled mail segment stuff, but I'm gonna say that we need to keep our answers pretty brief. But that's okay because they're not gonna get into a lot. We have a guy that follows us on social media. He's pretty interactive with us on Instagram. Tiarnan Hamill. I do not believe there is a relation to Mark Hamill, but I would love it if
let us know. And if there is, let's get an interview.
He says, I'm not sure if it's been discussed on the channel before, but do you guys consider Batman Vengeance to be part of the DCAU canon? And if so, where do you think it fits in the timeline? That's the video game that came out like 2001, I want to say. And I just looked at this because we've been discussing this with a couple different people. It's this weird, like, what was that thing that how do you describe it as, where everybody's thinking of the same thing at the same time?
Collective unconscious?
Yeah, where like everybody's coming out with a Batwoman related thing right now. Like we can, I mean, the thing with Jay and our channel, Jay's reviews and our channel was planned, but the Tim Talk podcast is talking about Batwoman soon. There's just been like a couple of random people asking us Batwoman questions. And so like this is a similar thing where people have been talking, like Maddie's been talking with a couple different people in different places about Batman Vengeance, and then we got this Batman Vengeance question. Nice. So I don't know what's going on, but it's whatever.
People want vengeance.
But because of that, we've been like kind of revisiting. A while ago, I watched all the cutscenes from all the DCAU video games and wrote down like any notes of like, oh, well, this can't be canon because blah blah blah, or oh, nothing contradicts and whatever.
Sure.
So let me bring it up here.
I had Batman Vengeance on my computer. I played that. Back in the day when I was a kid.
Batman Vengeance. Let's see. I have them all listed here.
I had Rise of Sinzu on my GameCube.
Yeah, I never had any of these games. I think I either didn't know they existed until too late, or I didn't have the console. I only had like an N64 until like high school. So, I have one of our like columns of information that we write down when we're going through all these comics and shows and whatever is non-canon. So I just have like little notes for things that might be questionably non-canon about stuff. And the only things that I have for Batman Vengeance are Mary, who it's this girl that I think it turns out to be Harley Quinn in disguise.
Yeah.
And she's like trying to get Batman to help her or something. I can't remember exactly.
That's right.
But,
that's right.
She has a portrait of Thomas and Martha Wayne in her apartment, but I think that's probably just a like reused asset or something that they just tossed in there. It doesn't really mean anything potentially. And then Batman calls the Batwing the Bat Plane. But we've talked about that before, that it's just like, it's kind of back and forth. Some of the model sheets say Batplane, some say Batwing. They refer to it as Batwing several times in the show, but I think a couple times they've said Batplane. So, but there's nothing else in this one that is like, oh, that's obviously wrong.
Is there any evidence about like where to fit it in terms of seasons or year? Or, like obviously it's new Batman adventures because of the art style. So it could be anywhere from like 98 to
I'm looking at our other clues column. I mean, it's obviously TNBA era. Batgirl is in the game, so it's got to be at least after she you know, becomes an official partner of Batman or whatever. Mr. Freeze is in this game, as like a main villain that you fight, and his like reveal or his like reintroduction post Sub-Zero is definitely in the Cold Comfort episode. So this would have to be after that. But Mr. Freeze's arc is very like strict. Same with Clayface. For some reason I thought that we were talking about Rise of Sinzu, which is not, which is also hard to place because of Clayface, because he's in it and Clayface has like a definite, I was this and then I was this and then I was this. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of ambiguous. What I was going to get to with these video games, because we also, Jacob Johnson, he's been on, we've talked about his stuff a couple times. He wrote in about, what about this little thing? And it's Superman Shadow of Apocalypse, which is another
I had that one on GameCube. I'd never played, well, I played Superman 64, never owned it. It's the worst. It's known for being one of the worst games ever. Shadow of Apocalypse is kind of a sequel, so it's not much better.
So the interesting thing is there's Shadow of Apocalypse, and then the next year a prequel video game, Countdown to Apocalypse, came out. And Countdown is not canon, but Shadow might be. And I only say that because Shadow of Apocalypse doesn't have like anything that happens in it that would be like, oh nope, can't do that or whatever.
Yeah, it's a lot of inner gang from what I remember. You're just fighting inner gang a lot. So.
Like Countdown, I have Bruno Mannheim doesn't know who Kanto is when they met in their like first episode. The Space Needle is in Metropolis. Lois Lane is reporting on camera like a TV newswoman. The SCU speaks to Superman on a frequency only he can hear, but it's not Dan Turpin, and they've never done that in the show before. But yeah, so like we're going to be doing videos, long story short, I guess, on these video games eventually. And right now I don't have a ton to say about where they take place or anything. I just know that we figured out like, oh, this one is not canon for sure because of these really glaring obvious things that they didn't like there's a couple Justice League Game Boy games that came out that are just like,
I played this
whoever like wrote the story for the game just went like, who's a character on the show, who's a bad guy, Mongol, okay, Despero, okay, I remember, just put him in there.
There were two, and the second one in particular was like it had Eclipso and stuff, and like doing stuff that in the cartoon, like that general who was Eclipso was only that very momentarily.
Right. Yeah.
And then I think Amazo had something in that game that like made it not canon because his story is also very strict. Like you said, he leaves for space, and then when he comes back, it's for the return. Little things like that. But
yeah, so there's not a lot that we can really talk about right now with it, but I mean, I would say that both of those, Shadow of Apocalypse and Vengeance, are canon as far as we can tell. We have like a document, you can find it in the description of our Luthor for President video, that we might do a full video on just the contents of that document eventually. That is a like, how what's the in our opinion the best way to create the timeline, like what do you
determine
disclose as canon? How do you determine what's canon, what's not? And obviously that's just our way of doing it, but we figure we try to be as open to things being canon as possible. But some things, just like we're talking about, like just Eclipso is there, like
innocent until proven guilty,
right, exactly. That's what I always say with these. So and then our last thing is Jacob Johnson again. He says, "What's your guys' pitch for the Justice League reunion movie?" I've thought about this a little bit.
Me too.
I don't have like I don't have like a full plot, but I know with Batman and Harley Quinn, it was beside, they had the plot of the Floronic Man Poison Ivy stuff, but then most of the movie is just kind of like, oh, remember this guy, remember this thing that happens, look, it's the Batwing and all that stuff. So I think when they inevitably do a Justice League one, I think there's got to be a good balance of that kind of stuff with just, them using all their superpowers, because that's what everyone wants to see. If they did a whole movie where J'onn J'onzz is just on the Watchtower, that everybody would be like, what the heck?
J'onn is actually one of the only characters who I could see not coming back for the reunion, because Carl Lumbly, I mean, yeah, he's not on social media or anything, but he's the only one who's not really been vocal about pushing it. Yeah, even though Andrea Romano has said she'll come out of retirement to cast it and to direct it, and then obviously all the other original members of the league, Batman, Flash,
I think
Superman,
Carl
everybody
would probably do it, just because he was on Supergirl as John's dad and stuff like that. Like he's not
he's not unreachable.
And he's not like opposed to that genre or something. Like like when Hugo Weaving played Red Skull and then never wanted to do Red Skull again. I don't think it's that kind of situation.
Sure.
But you can tell that he's not as enthusiastic about it. Like a couple years ago, they had that panel at a Comic-Con where they all read from some sort of script. And Michael Rosenbaum wasn't there, but the rest were. And everybody else had, Kevin Conroy hams it up all the time. Everybody else seemed like they really wanted to be there, but Carl Lumbly was just like, I'm reading Jean's lines and I don't care at all.
Yeah.
So it was kind of depressing, actually. But,
well,
he'd probably do it, though.
I'd definitely like to see all the original 7 members back. I do see this reunion movie being set after the last episode of JLU. So hopefully it's been a few years later. Maybe we see Jon Stewart and Shara Hole in a committed relationship. Maybe she's even pregnant now with Warhawk. That could be kind of a cool allusion to Batman Beyond, although that wouldn't be necessary.
See, I think these are things fans want, but that they won't actually do.
Right.
I think they're too scared to either mess up their own, continuity, or they don't necessarily want to do something that you want. That sounds bad, but like Batman and Harley Quinn is very standalone, and it's probably wasn't even intended to be set, between seasons of Justice League Unlimited, like it turns out to be.
Well, I would like to personally see more Amanda Waller. I feel like she was established so well in JLU that it would be almost like a crime not to have her back, because even the epilogue, like she was just placed on this pedestal, made her a really important character for the Justice League. So if she was there, like maybe working with Argus and like doing some like planetary sort of, this could even just be like, a quick opening intro sort of segment, but like I'd like to see the Justice League on like a very planetary scale, working with Waller and Argus or whatever government entity doing something.
I mean, I can see my like plot pitch revolved around something, because I think that what most people want to see is those main 7 characters interacting with each other again, and not necessarily doing something super amazing, but they just want more of that. And I think you could do something. This is a little too War World-y, I think, but if you did something where like, all 7 people are captured and brought to like a gladiator arena where they have to fight, random, look, it's Starro, not Starro, but just like random villains that they fought that could be a match that have also been captured. Like, Grodd was floating out in space or something.
That's not a bad idea.
But
that,
like, But
I was going to say, I would like some multiverse stuff, some crisis level multiverse things. So it could be like they do the plot of Convergence, which is kind of like what you said. They're plucked and put into a gladiator scenario, except it's
with each other.
With each other from parallel worlds, which is exactly what they did in Convergence. So it could be our main DCAU. Maybe we see Justice League Action. Maybe we see Teen Super Titans. Friends. That would be really crazy. But it could be like Brave New Metropolis, Justice Lords. Stuff like that. Maybe even like Gotham by Gaslight or like the Red Rain, Vampire Batman, and like random stuff like that. But
it is kind of weird, because making a BTAS new movie like Batman and Harley Quinn it's going to be BTAS level scale, like it's a lot more down to earth story. But like with Justice League, you have to always create some sort of
something bigger,
giant thing for them to fight, like either a literal giant thing or like a huge problem.
I was gonna say I'd like to see the Legion of Doom, but like that was done in the last season of JLU, and then we've also kind of seen that in Justice League Doom, where the voice cast got back together and there was another team of villains to...
I've mentioned this before, but I definitely just want this to be not necessarily small scale, but something that does not affect the greater universe.
Only because you're greedy. You're greedy and you're doing a webcomic about it.
I know. Well, yeah, there's that aspect for sure. I think it's more for me just that Batman and Harley Quinn treads the line of accidentally retconning something constantly. And I feel like if they did like a JLU, something like set during JLU, that would be safe enough because they already know what's going on during that time or something. It would just have to, but that would also have to be something that isn't big enough that they wouldn't have referenced it in the show, So, so I don't know.
It's a tricky balance.
It would be kind of fun, even though they did it with the Crisis on Two Earths, but to do an in between Justice League and Justice League Unlimited where you can focus on the main 7 because I guess you can't focus on Hawkgirl though. I guess she wouldn't be part of it.
Well, I think she would. She's been included on all the recent panels and stuff with all the other Maria.
No. I mean like set between JL and JLU.
Oh yeah,
this is after Starcross, but before she comes back. So she could be in it. Maybe she could be in it, and then they just have some weird memory wipe thing that happens at the end, so that no one remembers that happened.
It could be set
and
during
then Batgirl
the original
wakes up
Justice
in a
League
bed.
series. Could be Starcross.
Yeah. That might be a good way to do it because you see plenty of times in JLU that like stuff happened during Justice League that you never actually saw, like old videotapes of things happening or them referencing some villain we didn't actually see them fight and stuff like that. So
I doubt that though. I think it's going to be firmly after JLU,
probably,
but we'll see. Yeah,
I mean maybe Batman and Harley Quinn was even intended to be after JLU in like Bruce Timm's head or something, but whatever. It's all. I just hope that they don't. I hope they try harder. If you should watch, if you're listening, you should watch my Batman and Harley Quinn review on our channel, Watchtower Database, because I talk about that for like half the video. Where if they're going to return to this universe, treat it with respect, do your homework,
be intentional.
It's impossible to please everybody, but I think it would be better than just going like, well, I didn't rewatch any episodes. I don't remember anything. Let's just dive into a script, and no one will care. They just want to see Kevin Conroy again. So, yeah,
true. Well, cool. That'll happen. I think it's inevitable. We'll get it soon.
Yeah, I think that'll happen for sure. I still wonder what Susan Eisenberg was talking about when we talked to her, and she was like, "Oh, something big's coming. You guys are gonna love it." And then every time something DCAU happens, I ask her like, "Was it that?" And
obviously,
like, nope, not yet.
It's the Lego Aquaman movie where she voiced Mera.
Yep, we're real excited about that.
All right.
Okay.
Is that all we got?
I think we should probably get out of here.
Okay.
So we get this podcast out every other Monday. This is on iTunes and the Watchtower Database channel. I was also going to mention Ted every Wednesday puts out a comic relief post on our social media.
It's a comic. I'm so relieved.
That's the second verse. Either I'll make Adam write a
don't make him
go
do
behind that, or you just sing that every single time.
Okay.
Anyway, if you enjoyed this podcast or any of the videos that you see on the channel, share them with your friends. Tell people about us and how cool we are.
Tell all your friends about me.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
it's my Batman voice.
Where were the other drugs going?
Tell all your friends.
It's 2 different movies, I think.
Where's Rachel?
So speaking of Adam Mullen, he's our composer. He's on musica-atomica.com. He writes the opening themes you hear on all these videos, Vanishing Point, 12th Level Intellects, Watchtower videos, etc. There's no Trivia Tuesdays theme yet, but there probably won't be.
It's Tuesday, time for trivia.
See, you're really good at this. We don't even need Adam. I'm just kidding. We're on social media at DCAU Watchtower. That's where you can send us things you want us to talk about, or you can also email us at info@watchtowerdatabase.com. We also have contact form on the Legacies website, and that's legasiesdcau.com. That's our webcomic. We have videos out on the YouTube channel every week, twice a week. You got Sunday, Thursday, and then Monday, Tuesday. This is the Monday, so tomorrow we got Trivia Tuesdays. How's that theme go again, Ted?
It's Tuesday, time for trivia.
Subscribe. That's the end of this. Subscribe. Yeah, you should subscribe to the channel though, so that you can hear lots more cool little songs.
Yes.
You can also check us some coffee money on Patreon. That's patreon.com/JTS Entertainment. We're going to be changing up the perks, the reward tiers kind of soon. I have a lot of ideas for that I'll be emailing Ted because he needs me to email him because he's
too busy.
Weird.
Too busy for Facebook Messenger.
Sure.
Sometimes.
Yeah, Maddie deleted his Facebook and then was like, "Oh no, Messenger will be fine." And then he had to create a new Messenger account, so all of his past messages to me are lost to him forever. That's it. Thank you for listening, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks, or you'll hear us in 2 weeks. We won't see you at all, and you won't see us either.
Nope.
That's
which is good.
Do you want to see what's the end of the podcast song, Ted?
I don't know if that's a song, but you need to put your pants back on.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Okay. That's the end of the podcast.
Okay, bye.
All right.